Welcome to the Businessmen and Women of Color podcast. I am your host, Ann Alston, and it is once again my pleasure to bring quality programs to all of you. I am back in 2019 again with another amazing season with another bunch of amazing people who are on this platform. And tonight we're going to have one of my corporate sponsors who is on here. I just can't wait to talk to her today. And I just want to let you guys know that if you have not participated in the podcast platform before, please make sure that you sign up for the 2020 because it's going to be epic with a new podcast season. And just in case you didn't know the purpose of the BMWC, the purpose is to not only unify everyone in the world about business and career, but we're also sharing our passion, our story, and our industry information because we want to inspire you, the working professionals, students, and anyone who is looking to obtain a career or business in any of the areas that we're going to have on our podcast season this year. So please make sure that you visit all of the pages and listen to all of the podcast recordings so that you can get the full scope and breadth of what we're talking about here on the podcast season. Before we get started with our interview today, we would like to take a moment to thank our corporate sponsors, which are My Financial Home, Evangelism Radio, JNF Enterprises, Sears Consulting, Autism Family Rock, Awakening to Love, Eli Natoli, Kimberly McLemore, True Synergy, and Platinum Financial Services, along with our other over 50 participants this year who is making this season a huge, huge success. So as I mentioned at the top of the hour, I have a wonderful, dynamic coach, speaker, all types of stuff. This woman is doing it all. I've been following her on Facebook and she is doing phenomenal things. Her messages are powerful and she will be coming up to speak in a number of events that she is going to be talking about here on this podcast season. And I would like to welcome Erica Salih, who is our corporate sponsor, who is the owner of True Synergy, LLC. She is a personal and professional development company that helps clients identify the barriers that get in the way of achieving their goals. She has a bachelor's degree in psychology from Frostburg State University, and she has a master's degree in negotiation and conflict management from the University of Baltimore. Erica is passionate about empowering individuals to seek their full potential. It is that passion that moves her to create the YouTube series, The True Woman Show, featuring dynamic women in the community who have enjoyed great success and overcame the odds to reach them. And in her messages, her series are very universal and applicable to anyone who is listening. She uses her series in individual, group, and coaching program, workshops, and speaking engagements, along with her other social media outlets to encourage her audience to create their best life and live to the fullest. So I want you guys to keep continuing to read her bio as I bring on Miss Erica. Erica, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Miss Ann, thank you so much. I am so excited to be with you and your listening audience. I've been excited about this for a long time, so I am happy to be having this conversation.
Nice. I am so happy you're here, and thank you so much for supporting the BMWC platform and becoming a corporate sponsor. I'm so appreciative to you and others who see the value in what we're trying to do to unify. And so I just want to make sure that I acknowledge and thank you for being a supportive sponsor. So let's get right into it. So tell everybody where you're from and a little bit about your background as it leads up to your speaking.
Sure. And you know what? I got to say this. I do want to let you know how much I appreciate being part of this platform and to support what you are doing to help business owners is something that, you know, I didn't think twice about. So just to be here in space with you is certainly an honor. So, you know, I was listening to you talk and reading the bio, and I was like, wow, that is definitely a different person than the little girl who was chased home from school, you know, bullied day in and day out and laughed at, made fun of. And so, you know, just to hear that, just one, makes me grateful for this conversation, this platform. So, you know, I'm originally from Baltimore. And I have really, if you had asked me a few years ago, if this is something that I would be doing, if I would be, having conversations about how to live your best life, if I would be in a position trying to inspire other women and people in general to seek out their best, I would tell you absolutely not. But I think it is that story about the little girl who wasn't really so sure about who she was, and even growing into an adult woman, still carrying some of the burden of that. And I know for sure now in my older years and lessons learned that it is absolutely the gift that God has given me to inspire others to look past all of the stuff that has happened in the past, all the challenges, and as you read in the bio, the barriers that get in the way of us achieving our goals. And so I speak from that message. It is my intent to help you figure out what are those things that have gotten in the way of reaching your goals. And once we figure that out, then we can start to think about, well, what does possibility look like? So being here with you, having this conversation, and hopefully allowing your listeners to hear something that will resonate with them is really what I'm passionate about and what drives me to speak and to use that as one of the platforms to reach others to help them figure out their best.
Awesome, fantastic, and thank you for sharing that intimate moment about your life there. It's no secret. I share this a lot because I think this is also part of my truth as well. How I was also bullied day in and day out from elementary school all the way up to probably my first year in high school. I definitely understand that point of view and how you can basically take that energy and turn it into something positive and impactful for everybody else, and without
Yeah.
even knowing like your whole story, and they wonder like, where did this come from, right? So I want to applaud you for just overcoming those obstacles, because it is a difficult thing to overcome that type of thing, especially as I hear you say, being bullied day in and day out. There's a lot of kids out there that is not seeing the light of day. um,
Yeah.
However, if there's something that you and I can do to help those who are listening who may be bullied, make sure you reach out to us so that we can help you. And I just wanted to put that out there because there are a lot of people, even adults out there, who are being bullied. And I think for me, it just always hits those heartstrings, and I want to be able to help, just like you, to help people overcome those things. But as you got older in your life and you started getting interest in school, what was your primary interest when you first came out of high school? Was it something that you wanted to get into speaking, or was there, I see you have a master's degree in psychology and things of that nature, so can you kind of talk about a little bit about how you landed upon that particular industry?
Mm. Good question. The honest answer is that when I came out of high school, I really didn't know. I applied to one college. I didn't know what it meant to even apply to school. So I applied to one college, Frostburg State University, and I got accepted. And I was like, okay, this is where I'm going to go. I really had no plan. And I declared the major of psychology just because I thought, oh, this sounds interesting. Some people say they always knew they wanted to study a certain field of interest. I wasn't that person. I was just trying to figure it out. I was a product of a single parent household, and really the idea of how are we even going to send you to college was really more important of a conversation than what are you going to study when you get there. So it's interesting because I declared the major of psychology not really knowing what that meant or, what that was going to look like when it was all said and done, but it was something that I truly enjoyed. Now, fast forward some years, it's amazing how we think that things just happen, because I never would have thought of being a business owner. Being an entrepreneur wasn't something that even scratched the surface of my thoughts until I got much older. And it was only until I found myself in corporate America, I had been working for a company for almost 20 years, and somewhere around the 15, 16-year mark is when I started feeling stagnant. And I felt like this is no longer serving me. I didn't understand what that meant. It was an uncomfortable feeling. I didn't have the answers. I wasn't really producing as I should have been in that role. So I knew something was changing. And what I realized was that my heart was more geared toward the conversations that I was having with people outside of what the goal for work was that day. People were coming to me for, insight, or they needed a conversation. They needed to get something off their chest. And I found myself being that person. And that really resonated with me. That was what I felt my heart's calling, and my spirit was drawn to that. And so, fast forward again, I realized, you know what? I feel like this is a gift. To lead, to transform, to inspire other people is a gift. And it just started to open itself up over the last few years. And so that psychology degree was something that absolutely fit into, what I'm doing right now. And so it's amazing how those things align, but that's really the gist of it. I had no thought about, oh my God, I want to be someone, to transform other people's lives. I want to be a speaker. That was never, ever even a thought until much later.
Okay. And so, as you embarked on that journey that you just described, did you ever feel that you wanted to kind of do like the traditional facility, brick and mortar psychology type of coaching, or was it something else that just kept drawing you to the other direction?
It's interesting because initially when I discovered that I enjoyed helping people, helping them to live well, and mental, physical, spiritual well-being was at the center of that conversation, which is where the name True Synergy comes from. I originally thought about, well, maybe I'll open a day spa. And even as I sit here talking to you now, I'm looking on my vision board, and I have this thing mapped out about what that would look like. Now, the day spa would have encompassed a whole host of things, including your typical spa services, but it also had that component where, I could make myself available to do workshops, and those workshops would center on this whole conversation about what does it mean to figure out your best life. So at one point, yes, I did have the thought of a brick and mortar establishment. I even wrote my business plan from that perspective. Um, but as the years have gone on, I have sort of put that to the side. I don't know if that is going to be the direction, the brick and mortar, but I do know that the purpose around what would have gone into that is still the same, which is where I operate from today in terms of my coaching and speaking. So it's a great question. Interesting that you asked, and I'm sitting here looking at that very diagram on my board.
Mhm. Well, the reason why I asked that question because I think last year was the year of the psychologist. And I call that the year of the psychologist because I had so many people who have been or have achieved their or even obtained their degree in psychology and have went in one direction or another. And I
Mm,
think for you, you actually kind of went in the opposite direction and kind of just went to what was really driving you to do what you're doing today. And I find that very fascinating because part of the reason why I created this platform is to give people the ideas that you don't have to be like a brick and mortar. You don't have to be
mm,
traditional. You can be whatever you want and use your talent however you want. And so you just pretty much gave us the epitome of that. And
yeah.
so I appreciate that because we need more versatility when it comes to psychology and technology and some of the
Hmm.
other ologies that we got going on. And
Yeah.
I get excited when I hear people really doing something different and unique with what they have and what they can bring and impact an individual. So
Yeah.
now that you have your true synergy and everything, what has been the impact of your efforts and in touching people in their different life and spaces?
Well, first of all, I want to just step back to say this, and I'm glad you called this out. I think it's so important to just reiterate what you said in terms of, there is no cookie cutter way when you start to think about your goals and desires of your heart and your purpose. And sometimes we think, oh my gosh, I got to do it this way. But you get to create whatever that looks like for you. So I'm glad that you said, we don't have to go the traditional route of doing something the way it's always been done. You get to create it for yourself. And that's the beauty of what it means when you start to really step out there and figure out what does purpose look like for me. So I just wanted to kind of piggyback on that. Here's the thing, and there's something about being able to touch people in a way that they never thought they could be touched. One of the most gratifying things that I can share is that when I'm working with a client and, at the beginning phase of an engagement, of a partnership is really what I call it, because that's what we are, partners throughout the coaching process. There's always you can call out the limiting beliefs. You can call out all of the things that people feel like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. I've never thought about that for myself, or there's no way I can do that, or my family history says that this is impossible for me. So you start to hear all of that in the beginning, and through the coaching process, a lot of that comes out. What really excites me is that when we get to a point of the partnership and there's that aha moment where people really feel like I can do this. It is possible for me. And that is what, when I say like the hair stands up on the back of my neck, that is what makes this so exciting. I'll share this really quickly, and I know we could probably talk about it all day, but a client posted something the other day about something amazing that she's doing in her community with her product. And so I gave her kudos on that, because I get so excited to see the things that she's doing. She came back and she said, I feel like your personal and professional development training is working. And when I read that, it just made me feel like this is what it's about, to have somebody recognize the possibilities within themselves is really what makes me happy and what fills my heart and my spirit.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything you just said, because I think that, again, you already hit the nail on the head. This is what it really means to feel like you fulfilling your purpose, that you're doing what God has intended it for you to do. I
Mm-hmm.
call it the assignment, so eloquently put by one of the evangelists that I saw a video of, where you have an assignment. And I
Mm-hmm.
think everyone has an assignment, and just recognizing where you are in your space and how you leverage that to help another individual is always a good thing. And I think we don't have enough of that.
Yeah.
And so, with what you're doing and what I'm doing together, hopefully people will see, that is something that they should embrace. And
Yeah.
I'm definitely open for like any conversation with anyone that needs that help, and maybe a tag team. I'm always for collaboration. That's my favorite word,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
That's my favorite word. Okay,
Yeah.
so now you have this true synergy and everything. So talk a little bit about what your organization does as a whole, and what you offer, and things of that nature, that people can get a full scope of what true synergy is all about.
Okay. So True Synergy has there's two dynamics to True Synergy. First, from the personal coaching side, personal development is where I work with individuals or groups in a coaching partnership to really help them figure out, as we talked about it earlier when I was talking about, breaking barriers. So the idea is that, I love to have the conversation with people about what is getting in the way of them figuring out their best, whether it's the past, whether it's relationships, whether it's, finances, moving past those things and really figuring out, okay, now we know what it is, what the barrier is. Let's figure out how we can move it or move around it. And then let's seek out what your best is. So for the individual, that is the conversation. How can we work through those things so that you really can find your path and you can move along that path in a way where you feel like you are creating what the best version looks like for you. So that's one side of it, the individual and group coaching programs that I offer. The other side of that is in the professional development space. It's the same conversation, but it's a different audience. So, for companies, if they are looking to, figure out how they can get past some of the barriers in corporate America, whether it's communication, whether it's how to make employees feel valued while still achieving the goals of the organization. There's so many different paths that we can go down when we think about how do we make the professional development space one that is also healthy, one where you also identify those barriers and then figure out, well, what do you need to do to move those out of the way? So it's really the same conversation, but there's a couple different audiences. So I'm having that conversation in my personal development space as a personal coach, as well as the professional space if there are companies out there who are looking for workshops to be facilitated to help them navigate through some of those challenges.
Okay, very, very nice. And so, what activities are you engaged in right now that people need to come out and register for and see you? Are you having something at your, were you doing your coaching or, just talk about a little bit of that? I want to know what's going on so that other people can like come out and get some coaching sessions with you.
Yeah. Well, good deal. So yes, so there's a couple things going on right now. Actually, this is a pretty busy time. I am a panelist and a facilitator for the upcoming Women's Leadership Forum that is sponsored by Maryland Public Television. So that is sold out. We've got over 300 women who have registered for this event. So even though that's sold out, you can always connect with me on 2020 because we've got that in the works also. I am also a speaker at the Phenomenal Women Walking in Our Purpose conference, which is this coming weekend in Alexandria, Virginia. I know the time is of the essence, but I believe that tickets are still available. I'm also continuing my book tour, book meet and greet. So I've got a date coming up in April where I'll be in Durham, North Carolina. So if any of your listeners are in that area, I would love to have them come out and support me there. I will be at the Durham County Public Library. So lots of other things going on as well. In May, I've got a women's conference sponsored by the LM Foundation. So all of this information, if you connect with me on social media, I'll be posting things about how to connect. And of course, I have my weekly Facebook Live that I do in my private Facebook group, the Barrier Breakers Network. So that's an ongoing conversation. So lots of things to allow folks to connect, to see what I'm up to get a flavor of the conversation. And then, of course, if they want to take it further, if they have additional questions, they can always reach me on my website at truesynergy.org.
Okay, so the Breaking Barriers platform, is this something totally different from True Synergy, or is this focusing on a specific topic when you're doing your Facebook Lives for the Breaking Barriers?
So True Synergy is the umbrella company, if you will. The Barrier Breakers Network is a platform that I just created underneath of the True Synergy umbrella. And it's really having that conversation. It is about breaking barriers to create your best. And I wanted to really put a fingerprint on that conversation. And so, I work with an amazing company, Peak Performance Institute. I got to give them a shout out. And they really helped me to bring this concept to life. And so the Barrier Breakers Network is a multi-level platform, meaning, there's different ways to engage in terms of, being able to come in, hang out with me in my private Facebook group where, it doesn't, anybody can be a part of that, the network there in the Facebook group. But, some people want and need to go further in their personal growth. And so the platform has been created so that people can come in, they can get a little snippet of what they need, or they can take it further by saying, hey, listen, I need to engage on a different level. So there's an opportunity for the mastermind group. There's an opportunity for being a part of the academy, which is where they get coaching, a different topic every month. And we kind of stay with the specific topic during that month. And there's I teach, and then you go and do. right? Because nothing happens unless we take action. So lots of different things being offered as part of the Barrier Breakers Network. And again, I encourage anyone, if they're interested in finding out more about it, feel free to reach out to me on my website, truesynergy.org. There's a link there where you can find out more about the Barrier Breakers Network. And you know, people might want to just have a conversation like, what can this do for me? Or they have questions about it. I'm happy to honor those conversations individually if people need to have discussion about it.
Okay, I think that we could probably kick this off with maybe like, and I always ask this question is, given what you've been through in your life and where you are now and your huge accomplishments, which I am so happy to hear about all the things you're doing, can you offer three pieces of advice to those who are listening who are either trying to do what you're doing or want to get coaching because they had bullying or domestic violence in their life? You know, what three pieces of tips or advice that you would like to say to them to encourage them to step out?
Good one. Okay, three things. Wow. Okay, so the first thing that I would say is that there is a gift inside of each and every one of us. So sometimes people might say, well, you know, that's for everybody else, or I can't do that. That would never happen for me. The first thing I would say is that you have a gift just like everybody else. And it might not look the same as the next person. It's all good. And even if it does look the same, it's okay because there's more than enough to go around. So don't take yourself out of the game before you even get in the game. That's the first thing. The second thing I think I would say is, and this is a big one for me, is that your past does not dictate your future. You know, all of us have things that we have either said or done, or someone has said or done something to us, and we feel like because of that, we can never do or we can never be. And I would just say, you know what? Let the past be a place where you've learned some lessons and where you can apply it to where you are now and where you want to go. Don't use the past as an excuse not to move forward. And sometimes we do that. So that would be number two. And then I guess number three is to know that you have to put in the work. Like, you know, you probably have heard this multiple times, and it's like, oh, you know, I'm waiting on the Lord. And it's like,
Yeah, yeah.
okay, the Lord is
Yeah.
saying, I'm waiting on you to move. You know, I've given
Mhm.
you a certain amount of gifts and things, but you can't just sit and wait for things to fall out of the sky. And the reality of it is, when we have to move, when we have to do or take action, it takes us out of our comfort zone. And that's the thing that sometimes keeps us stagnant and stuck, and we're still complaining and not fulfilled. So just know that in order for you to get something that you've never had, I know it's an old phrase and a cliche and a slogan that we've probably heard a million times, but you really do have to do something that you've never done. And that requires us to take action. So just know, in order to make it happen, you got to work toward making it happen.
Absolutely. I am a firm believer that nothing will happen unless you take action.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely would like to add to your list is that regardless, and this is sort of piggybacking on the second thing you said, regardless of what happened in your life, no, you're never going to forget what happened to your life. But
Mm-hmm.
use that energy to turn your hatred, your depression, your anxiety into something positive that you can use for a lifetime.
Yeah.
There are so many ways that you can take that energy and redirect it. And I'm not saying that you're never going to feel the way you feel when you're going through a traumatic situation, but I
Mm-hmm.
have met people who have taken that tragedy and turned it into something of a treasure for them to propel them to greater heights and take them places where they've never been before. And
Yeah.
I know it has done wonders for me, and it has done wonders for everybody else that I know. So for those who are listening, please, I hope you rewind this recording and
Mm-hmm.
definitely just really take in what me and Erica is saying, because there are so many opportunities in which people can turn their life around just by simply having the mindset to do so.
I was just going to say, I'm glad that you said that because, you know, there's, you know, everybody has something. everybody has something, a lot of things we would much rather forget. We don't want to think about, we don't want to talk about. But and it doesn't discount the fact that as humans, we have the emotions attached to that. And that's okay. We need to do that because that's a part of the release. But sometimes we hold on to it so much that it then becomes a crutch and it becomes a weight. So for you to say, turn that into a treasure, then that's the piece to hold on to. And it's not always easy to think about it that way. But when we start to shift the mindset around that, then it becomes a different ballgame.
So I'm going to ask you this one last question.
Sure.
What do you and True Synergy need to keep going or to thrive in your business? What do you need?
Ooh, what do I need? Wow.
Yeah, what do you need?
Oh, that is a great question. I think what I need, number one, is to know that I don't know everything. So one of the things that I love is that, inside the space that you've created here with this platform, it's like, okay, there's resources that provide things that I don't have, I don't know, putting systems in place and making sure that I have the processes and procedures to operate from. So I think what helps me is to be able to know that there are platforms like this where if I have a question or I need to chime in and hear somebody else give some inspiration, because, as a coach, you can always give inspiration, but Lord knows we need it too. So just knowing that I have the place to go to get that kind of uplifting and the resources. Sometimes you don't know what you don't know. So I'm trying to answer the question because I'm like, there's so many things I need. I need to know that I can connect and I can network with other people so that I can expand not just my circle, but to figure out who else is out there that I can partner with, that I can connect with, and how can we do some things together. I think you said it earlier. So there's probably a whole lot of other stuff that I need that I'm going to think about after this is over, but that's a great question. It's like,
Yeah, I mean, because you know what, you're a business too. And, I think I want to make sure people understand that business and career, they go hand in hand. It's the only difference is that you're either working for someone or you're working for yourself. And both of them involve making a dream come true, making an operation happen. And I think you always look at what you need as as an individual, personally and professionally. I always ask this question because we work so hard and then we forget about ourselves a lot of times. And so I think this question is something that came about actually last year when I had asked it. It became such a popular question. I brought it back again this year because, we do need things, and coaches need coaches and mentors need mentors, right? So I definitely want to encourage anyone who's listening to this particular interview that, if something in this resonated with you, to please reach out to Erica, please reach out to me, and also go back to 2016, 17, and 18 and check out the other psychologists and other people who are on, see what they're doing. Don't limit yourself to just a little bit of information. I truly believe in getting a lot of information. So I want to thank you, Erica, for being on the podcast platform. And I love the interview that you gave today. I want to thank you again for being a corporate sponsor for the businessmen and women of color and supporting this effort.
Well, I want to thank you for the opportunity and for the platform. And listen, I want to say continued success to you. And I can't wait to see all the other things that you have in store and for the things that, we can come together on. So I look forward to it and I appreciate you.
Oh, you're welcome.